What's going on, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and it is Tuesday. That means it's time to take an advanced look at these collected editions coming out from Marvel this week. So let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. All these books are due out this week. So depending on where you get your books, they'll be released either September 6th or 7th. But all these books are due out this particular week. We've got a couple of epic collections, a reprint of a complete collection, some Mighty Marvel Masterworks, trade paperbacks, graphic novels, and this very interesting book right here that I will be talking about first. As always, in the description of the video, I put timestamps so you can jump around in case you're not interested in a particular title, or in case you don't want any spoilers going in. You don't even want to look at the artwork. Alright, so let's start, with How to Read Comics the Marvel Way. So this week we are starting with How to Read Comics the Marvel Way. Now, on my channel, I've talked about a book by Scott McCloud called Understanding Comics. This is very similar to that in a more kid-friendly approach. It's also a little bit cheaper. This is $12.99. This is written by Christopher Hastings, Scott Koblish doing the artwork, color art by Nolan Woodard. But there's also other issues in here. So what this is just teaching you how to read comics. And while that might sound ridiculous to a lot of people that have already been reading comics, this is a great way for kids or even people that have read comics and want to appreciate comic book art and sequential art more. And like I said, it's very similar to Scott McCloud's book, but it's done the Marvel way, because Marvel does have a very unique way of how they make comics. So we go from reading bubbles, to narration, to following panels, to what are these cap boxes here, why are they a different color. And Spider-Man goes through this series just explaining exactly what's going on while adding a little story element in here. Thought that was pretty interesting. The panel breakdowns going from script to art is all in here. Choosing the right colors and the tones and the different shading and shadowing that's going on. All of it is explained through here while you're still trying to tell a story of Spider-Man versus Mysterio. Thought that was really cool. The lettering that comes with some of the fighting sequences, like whenever somebody's punching somebody, the sound effects, the breaking of the panels, the different art styles. You go from manga, the color tones they used back in the early 30s to 50s. This is what I was talking. I love this, by the way. This is one of my favorite panels when talking about romance comics. Obviously, that looks like some manga right there. The Adventures of a Boy and His Cat obviously is a play on Tintin. Simile right here, which is, of course, a take on Smile. So it's really cool that they talk about all the different graphic novels without, of course, having any kind of copyright issue. I wonder what that is supposed to be. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed this. Like, it's not as thorough, of course, as Scott McCloud's book, because that really gets deep into the mythology of what makes a graphic novel so different than any other medium. But I think this does get the job done, because it's all 4 issues collected in here. Now, I think those 4 issues were written in 2020. For good examples, they use Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1. They use Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur #1. They use Miss Marvel, the 2014 issue #1, the G. Willow Wilson. And I already said Moon Girl. The Spidey #1 issue. So, overall, this is a really interesting collection, and one if you want to give to your kids to kind of understand comics. I think it would be really cool to see it from that perspective. But this one retails for $12.99. I'm sorry, $13.99. Uncanny Omar, read numbers pretty one day. And it has 176 pages. It doesn't have any extras in the back. I mean, why would it? That would be kind of weird. But this is How to Read Comics the Marvel Way. Next up, and people have been asking me where are the family reviews. They are going to come back. We're working on X-Men Volume 2 right now. Kids went back to school and it just shakes things up. But here is the Incredible Hulk, Mighty Marvel Masterworks Volume 2. The direct market cover and the standard edition cover. I love to know which covers people get, by the way. Different spines and direct market different back, as well as the standard. The direct market tells you this is a volume 16 if you're collecting all of them, of a limited print run, and then this is, of course, volume 2. Collecting Tales to Astonish, 59 through 74. It's a lot of artwork in here. Here, let's look at this one. By Steve Ditko and Dick Ayers, Bob Powell, Jack Kirby. And here's some of the inkers right there. Vince Coletta. Stan Lee writing most of the stuff in here. Of course, co-plot by a lot of his artists. But this continues the story of the Incredible Hulk through the pages of Tales to Astonish before eventually he got his own title. And this is also very important because it introduces us to a new character. A character that's going to be a thorn at Hulk's side for many years to come. And that is, of course, the coming of the leader, the other green guy, who first appears as a little cameo, but then has a full-blown appearance right there. So he is a villain that will forever be part of Hulk's mythos. Whether you're reading something from the Silver Age, the 70s, 80s, 90s, aughts, doesn't matter. The leader's always there, and he's forever changing the way that he looks. But this is the way that he looked at the beginning. So it's just Hulk smashing through a lot of things. There's a couple of fights here with other superheroes. So classic Silver Age. Surprisingly, a lot more Ditko than I remembered. For some reason, I thought this was all mainly Jack Kirby at the time. But no, Jack Kirby, I think, only did like 2 issues. The covers, of course, are all in here, even though sometimes Hulk plays a minimal role in the cover because it showcases Namor. Now, that is also getting a Mighty Marvel Masterworks. But that is The Incredible Hulk. The book retails for $15.99, and this has 192 pages. Next up is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Now, to kind of give you an idea, these books right here are all about the same dimensions. These are smaller scaled books. So compared to the size of an Epic collection, this isn't the Star Wars book for this week, by the way. This one comes out in about a month or so. But I wanted to keep it to the side to start reading it. So, kind of give you an idea of what these look like. But let's go back to this. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Place in the world. This brings back a lot of memories because this is something that my oldest daughter, Miss Lydia, was big into. And this is all written by Brandon Montclair. And I believe, yeah, you have Gustavo Duarte doing some fill-in artwork for issues 37 and 43. But it's mainly drawn by Natasha Bustos. Here's a couple of other fill-in artists. But I really like Gustavo's artwork. I really like this anime look that he gives both of these characters. Both Lunella and Devil Dinosaur. I think it's adorable and really fits the tone of this book. And I wanted to see more of that. But this is stuff that I've read already with Miss Lydia. So in here, you're going to have her finally team up with Spider-Man. She's been trying to get his attention for a long time. This is adorable. This is a Christmas issue, is how it kicks off. And then you get little Christmas postcards back here you cut out. Or not postcards, but rather gift cards. Not gift cards. What the heck are they called? Like labels? Whatever people do on presents. But the big story arc in here is her going to the Dream Dimension. And of course, in the Dream Dimension, you get to meet characters like not just Doctor Strange, but Nightmare. But the other character that she teams up with in the Dream Dimension is this guy right here, Sleepwalker. It's so cool to see a character like that show up in a book like this. Yeah, and yes, for the first time ever, she gets to meet Spider-Man in this. This is the big story where she meets Spider-Man. As a matter of fact, that's where this is from, the cover to Power and Responsibility. She's been trying to get his attention. Really like the artwork in this. A lot different than Natasha's. This is the War of the Realms tie-in. And this does wrap up, sadly, this particular book. Wonder if they'll ever do an omnibus of this. Because this right here collects issues 37 through 47. It is $13.99, by the way. And 47 was the last issue. So, I mean, that's enough. I mean, we've seen Squirrel Girl get an omnibus. And I think it'd be cool for somebody like my kid that read it about 4 years ago and really dug it. No, actually, I think she was reading him about 3 years ago. So it'd be cool for her to have her omnibus. But anyway, the final issue in here, it's a cute take on, is she smarter than Reed Richards? You can find out for yourself. By the way, a book like this, I think people take so serious, or maybe they don't even read, and they get into arguments. How can Marvel create somebody so smart? It's so ridiculous. Like, I've seen a lot of hate towards this character in this book. And It just reminds me of the old days of working at a comic book shop and how people would come in immediately hating on something. And me knowing damn well they ain't read the book because I'm the one that's selling them books. And they're complaining to other customers about how can you be reading that issue of Avengers is so atrocious. They've killed what Avengers used to be. I think people like that have always existed and unfortunately will always exist. But if you have kids, absolutely, definitely check this out. Read it with them. It's a lot of fun. It's very tongue-in-cheek. The Thing. This one came out of nowhere. The Next Big Thing. It's called The Next Big Thing, not This One Came Out of Nowhere. What? I honestly, it wasn't until I was looking at the previews, and for some reason I thought I remember seeing it before, but it wasn't until I was looking at the previews of upcoming collected editions for this month that I remember this book was coming out. That's when I filmed it a week or so ago. So this is written by Walter Mosley, who is a crime writer. He's New York Times best-selling crime author. And it is his take on The Thing. Now, The Thing at one time was a super popular character, by the way, really important, years ago. That's the important part. So if you think you're reading this and it's taking place now, because I completely missed that caption, I guess I must have gone back and needed to have read How to Read Comics the Marvel Way, because for some reason I missed it and I was really confused. I'm like, but wait a minute, what's going on? Him and Alicia are breaking up? What's up with that? Anyway, years ago. Where the hell was I? Crime author. Yes. So it is his take on The Thing. Oh, I was talking about the history of The Thing. Like, The Thing was at one time was so huge. He was carrying a title, not just in the Fantastic Four, he had his own title. And then before that, he was doing the Marvel 2-in-1. He was so popular that writers were using him to introduce lesser-known characters. Oh, I don't know, like the X-Men, or teaming up with characters like Nova and characters like that to get more of the people's eyes on these characters, these lesser-known characters, because he was so huge. Now, that might have been because of the cartoon, or because it was the #1 magazine out there, best-selling magazine. I don't know, but at one time he was huge, and it's weird to see him not have a title, and it's weird to see him not have a big prominent role. I will say this about this book though, it looks like a kid's book just because, I don't know, maybe it's a contrast here, but it is dark. Like, we meet this new villain right here, who has a secret, by the way, and all this comes to play at the very end. And what this character does is hunt down this guy right here. Is a new character who's obsessed with Amaryllis de Jour. And she's a big part of this story. We'll come back to that in a minute. So this character just kind of Temple of Doom's their hand into this guy that just appeared and takes out their heart and replaces it with this black heart, giving them power. I wasn't expecting to see that, so maybe, yeah, just as a heads up, it's really not kid-friendly. There are a lot of dark elements in here. As a matter of fact, there's this... Here, let me show you. This is really cool. Almost like a Marvel Zombies thing. We meet this character of Calixte right here. She's a little fairy. It works for an agency trying to find people's mate, get people together. It's a dating app, but back then, pretty much. So, after meeting her, Ben starts dozing off, and he has these dreams of this end of the world, this end of the Marvel Universe. I love this, by the way. You have characters in there like Galactus and the Celestials, Eternity, and then, of course, down here is... I love looking at these things because I'm like, okay, Easter egg. The artist sneak anybody in there. But mainly you have characters like Spider-Man, Thor, and Silver Surfer, Cyclops, but everybody's dead. And it's all got to do with this particular character. So, the reason that this little dating fairy, by the way, shows up to Ben is because him and Alicia are going through some rough patches. They kind of need to spend time away from each other. Again, it takes place in the past. So, we go back to this lady right here. And this is Amaryllis, the lady at the very beginning that this character was obsessed with. So, eventually, this guy is obsessed with her. Remember, he got his heart taken out, replaced by a black heart. Well, now he has powers, and he's facing Ben Grimm because he thinks Ben is trying to take his girl. There's a lot of twists and turns in here. A lot of characters show up that I didn't expect. Silver Surfer, Terrax, and a couple of other Easter egg characters in there. Or not Easter eggs, cameos, if you will. And even obscure characters. I just said Marvel 2-in-1. This is like the champion of the universe who hasn't been... I haven't seen him in comics in a while. So he just shows up here. picks a fight with Ben, and it was a pretty interesting story. It kept me interested reading it. It was a quick read. I can see why he is a crime writer. There's one thing in here that completely made me not really laugh, but like, wow, they really went there. It's when him and his lady friend. Here, let me show you. Actually, no, I don't have to. You could read it for yourself. I just thought the line that she said, because he's like, I'm not easy on the eyes. I'm made of rocks. And then what her reaction was to that, I was like, wow. I guess in a way that's kind of the updated way that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee would have handled that dialogue. Pretty interesting, but it did make me go, damn, we really went there. Okay. So this book has 144 pages. It retails for $17.99. Let's see if there's anything extra in the back. Of course there are. Here are all the variant covers, because there are no variants in between the chapters. Nothing really spoilerish, and of course, where else you can find The Thing in other books, like Fantastic Four by Dan Slott, who is wrapping up his run. And for all you spine watchers out there, it's that time of the video to remind you to smash that like button and subscribe. That really does help with our YouTube algorithm and our channel keep growing. But here are all the spines of the books coming out this week. If you want to pause it, but yes, by all means, please smash that like button. Alright, let's keep going. Next up is She-Hulk by Soule and Pulido, the complete collection. So this is a reprint. This is a book that was originally published, I think, in 2017. It was after the series was over and they had done a couple of trade paperbacks. Then they did a complete collection. But it's been out of print and Marvel just reprinted it. Even though they're focusing more towards the modern epics, and I'm sure this might be reprinted one day, years down the road, as a modern Marvel epic. But for now, it's a complete collection. And let's focus on this. So this takes place after the Dan Slott run, the Peter David run, and it's all written by Charles Soule, and I'll go back to that in a second. Drawn by Javier Pulido and Ron Wimberly doing 2 issues, issues 5 and 6. Here's all your colorists, your letters. And Kevin Wada is the cover artist, which I absolutely love. It kind of reminds me, if you've been watching She-Hulk, the outro credits, like the pictures that you see in the outro credits. So what pretty much sets this particular 12-issue series, so it does collect all 12 issues of She-Hulk, the 2014 series, Wolverine's number 13, and then material from Gwenpool special number 1. So Jennifer Walters ends up pretty much losing her job, or quitting, rather, from this latest law firm, because the lawyers are like, hey, you're a great lawyer, and she's like, I know, and I'm making good money, where's my bonus? And that's how it starts off. She's asking for the bonus, how big her bonus is going to be, and they're like, yeah, we're not really doing that, because while you may be a great lawyer, we're paying you by the hour. Yeah, you're not bringing in the clientele we were expecting. So what these guys were expecting was for people like Tony Stark to walk in and ask for like patents and things like that. They were expecting to drop business because she is She-Hulk, not because she's a good lawyer. So that kind of pisses her off. So instead of getting fired, she decides just to walk away. She meets a lady at a bar, and this lady kind of hires her to go after Tony Stark. So it's a pretty interesting take on that. Now, what comes in handy, and I didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago when I was doing my Saturday Q&A, is that Charles Soule actually has done some lawyering. So he was perfect to write characters like Daredevil and She-Hulk. And there's a lot of court trials in this particular volume. A lot. So also don't expect a lot of fourth wall breaking like she did in John Byrne's run or Dan Slott's run. This is more like Peter David's run, but it's got a little more humor in it, which is so weird to say because I love Peter David. I think he's a funny guy, but there was less humor in that and more in this. And this is also very similar to something I brought up when talking about The Thing, and that is the Marvel 2-in-1. That's what this reminds me of, because there's not really an overall arc that's connecting these stories other than her quitting her job, going after Tony Stark, and then realizing that she wants to open up her own law firm. So she gets her own law firm, and she has a supporting cast, including Patsy Walker, to join her. But there's not really an overall arc. It's more episodic, which is what Marvel 2-in-1 was. Well, with the exception of like when a story carried over into something, or it continued with like, oh, now you got to read the team up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But that's what this is. So don't expect like a big overall story arc that has a huge twist at the end. It's just more episodic, and that's okay. I think that's what makes this interesting. It's case by case that she's dealing with. Honestly, that's kind of the way that She-Hulk TV show has been, like, very much like this. This is the fill-in artist. There's a lot of cameos that show up in here. Now, does Daredevil show up in this? Well, you can find that out for yourself. Javier Pulido is doing the artwork, and his art really reminds me of Javier Rodriguez, who did the history of the Marvel Universe. He does the covers for 1961, 1962, the standard edition covers. But throughout this, there's still some hokey humor, but you have art like this. There's that She-Hulk booty. Let's go back, because I don't want to spoil what happens at the last part of who ends up showing up. So this is the other issues collected in here after the main 12 issues, which, by the way, this is the art process by Javier Pulido. Okay, I will say that even though there's not an overall arc, there's a little twist with a character that does show up towards the end that maybe some of you might be familiar with, and you're like, oh, that's the character from Spider-Man. Where has he been? I thought he was dead. Anyway, this is the Wolverines, pretty much. Issue number 13, the one with Deadpool. And then you have some stuff back here from the Gwenpool, Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day. Gwenpool Special. This book retails for $34.99. It has all 12 issues of Charles Soule's run. You should definitely check it out, especially if you're interested in the sensational She-Hulk. And it has 271 pages. Next up is Star Wars: The Empire Legends Epic Collection, Volume 7. So this one here retails for $44.99, and it is the Legends Empire. Star Wars Legends Empire. Volume 7. So this collects Star Wars Blood Ties 1 through 4. The follow-up to Blood Ties. By the way, I love when they do this. This kind of catches you up to where we are during this particular time of the Star Wars saga. The follow-up to Blood Ties, Boba Fett is Dead 1 through 4. Star Wars Empire 1 through 4. Underworld, the Yavin Vasilika, which that is a 5-issue miniseries. I really enjoyed that. I had never read that before. Free Comic Book Day, Star Wars 2013. And materials from Star Wars Tales 1 and 2, 6 and 16. So this is how we kick it off with the story by Tom Taylor. This is one that has already been collected in the Star Wars Boba Fett Legends trade paperback. Because when I was reading this, I'm like, wait, I've never read this stuff in the past. Why do I know this story? And I had read it in that particular trade paperback. Both of this and the Boba Fett is Dead were collected in that particular trade. So this is pretty much a story that takes place in Jango Fett's past, or Boba Fett's past, really. And it introduces us to a character from their past that plays an important role in both of these miniseries, and that is Connor Freeman. You can find out who Connor is because it was a big surprise. Now, Connor Freeman is the son of an important character, and then his mother plays a role, so Boba Fett feels a connection to this particular character. Boba Fett is Dead is, of course, all these bounty hunters that are being off that are responsible for the death of Boba Fett. But is Boba Fett really dead? Who knows? But this is a long series, and the thing that I liked about this collection, this is Ryan Benjamin, by the way, on art here. The artist here is Chris Scalf, the one that did both of those minis. That's what I like about this, is that the art is so different throughout this book. Because Ryan Benjamin has, like a Jim Lee type of style. Has a lot of cross-hatching going on with his artwork. So he's done stuff for Marvel and DC, but this is his Star Wars era. And this is pretty much a team-up between Darth Vader and Boba Fett. Because, well, there's always betrayal in the Empire. Now, the story that I read, oh man, that was a lot of fun, is this one right here. the Yavin Vasikila story. This one's written by Mike Kennedy and Carlos Meglias doing the artwork. But I like this art. It really fits the tone of the story, and I realize it is a lot cartoony than probably people, are used to when it comes to Star Wars, especially when you have things like this or like this. It's not realistic, but I dig it. And the story was a lot of fun. It all features the Hutt gangsters, and of course there's some double dealing going on, but it's all about a race to find this artifact that's called the Yavin Vasilika. But they have to beat out the other bounty hunters that are in search of it. How awesome is that? So you have a lot of characters in here. Of course, Han Solo. You have Chewbacca and Lando. I love the way that he draws Lando. Well, that's not a really good picture, but there's one where he draws him with his cape all badass. But this was a lot of fun. I really liked it. And pretty much, it's all about getting the credits. And it's just a story that I didn't expect to read this late into something from the Empire. And of course, Boba Fett plays a big role because there's a lot of bounty hunters that are all throughout here. And a lot of cameos from other stories you may see. Not just from the movies, but there's one particular character that shows up in here. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Where the hell has she been? But you can find out who that is by yourself. Let's look at the extras here in the back. Oh, there's a couple little short stories in the back. That's where one of the characters shows up that I was talking about. But here are all the extras. All the variant covers are back here. The book, by the way, has 488 pages and retails for $44.99. So including some trade paperbacks and some character designs. Love these. Did I announce a second omnibus of this? Was this stuff in there? Let me know in the comments down below. And honestly, I don't know. I think people have told me that there's enough material for one more, because there's some missing stories they hadn't collected. And some of this does do some double dipping with the other Star Wars line that they have, the New Republic. Just a little bit, though. But this is Star Wars The Empire, Volume 7. King Conan, Chronicles, Phantoms and Phoenixes. This is Volume 1. Now, before I dive in here, people have asked me what happened to Volume 2. There was an Amazon thing. I never really got solicited, though, so I don't think that's coming. I think that Amazon was a placeholder that they found in the catalog, and remember what I've always said about the catalogs? Like, that's step one, then we have to have it solicited officially. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I want to say right now it doesn't seem like we're going to get it, because we're at the tail end of the Marvel contract with Conan. And it sucks, because while I do have the Colossal King Conan, there are stories in here that are not found in there. And this is mapped in chronological order that makes the most sense. For example, the Age of Conan, the Hyberian Adventures, is all in here right before Conan and the Midnight God, and that leads into the Scarlet Citadel. So, let's talk about the book. This is the Dark Horse era of Conan. This is when Conan was over at Dark Horse and kicked off with the phenomenal Kurt Busiek and Gary Nord. Their work on Conan, and Robert E. Howard has a huge omnibus of that. Colossal Conan, also, well, that one's out of print and has been for years. But this is kind of the tail end of that. This is the beginning of the end, because King Conan was kind of the last thing that was over there at Dark Horse. So this collects Conan and the Midnight God, issues 1 through 5. King Conan, the Scarlet Citadel, all 4 issues of that. King Conan, the Phoenix on the Sword, 4-issue miniseries. The Phantoms of the Black Coast, and that's just Conan, it's not King Conan, but it all takes place during King Conan's time. That's a 5-issue miniseries, and the material from Age of Conan, the Hyborian Age, #1, and that's what it kicks off. So now we find Conan a little bit older. He is with his lady Zenobia, and she is with child. That's what leads into King Conan, Conan and the Midnight God. So this is the story pretty much of Conan. His wife is with child. She's pregnant, and he has to deal with this Stygian army that's coming towards him and his people. He has to lead his people, and there are some really awesome freaking character designs in here, by the way. Let me show you. Yes, these characters right here. So this particular story is written by Joshua Dezard, and it's Cliff Richards doing the artwork. And I love these ladies right here. So these ladies are trying to stop the ghost of the people they just murdered from crossing into the bridge, crossing over into the next life. It's a pretty damn dark story. And the fight with them and Conan taking one of them as prisoner, all of it is so freaking awesome. I really enjoy that. This is a story I hadn't read because it's not found in the Colossal King Conan. And then we do have this story. This is the Scarlet Citadel. This is the one that is found. And there's this pretty much old Conan. That's how it kicks off. Talking about a young Conan story. So you have this older Conan right here. Talking about the young Conan and his life, his adventures. Pretty much being trapped and being in prison in this tower and him trying to get out. Now, this one here, I love the ending to this story. There's something that happens at the very end that I thought, oh, that is so cool. It's a nice twist. Very awesome. I didn't see that happening. I remember that from the Colossal Conan. This one's also in the King Conan Colossal book, and that's the Phoenix on the Sword. And this is pretty much the return of the classic villain, Thothomon. And he teams up with other characters to take down Conan. But the story that I have to talk about is back here. This is the Phantoms of the Black Coast. This is the cover that you see for the Epic Collection here. And man, this story stuck with me. This is by Victor Gischler, and it's drawn by Attila Futaki. And it is again the time of Conan when he's a little bit older, and he has a sorceress appear to him, and she's telling him about his lost love, his biggest love, and how she can't cross over to the other side because she needs his help. And I thought this was such a freaking powerful story. So this is the sorceress right here, Nadina, and she needs his help. Of course, she's got an end game, right? Like there's something that she wants from him. But I didn't expect to enjoy this story as much. I didn't expect it to hit me as much as it did, especially that 4th and 5th issue. This was done really damn well. And again, one that I hadn't read before. But this is from 2012, I think, is when this particular series was written. And it's all 5 issues of it. And you can find out who his biggest love was. I'm sure if you've read Conan, you know exactly who that is. As far as the extras, all the way in the back, here's some extras, like some pencils right here, just from different artists throughout the book. The book, by the way, has 464 pages, and this one here retails for $44.99. Thomas Gioreyo is who you see a lot of the artwork from in here, whether it's pencils, and then here's some inks. And other Conan collected editions. So if you're trying to find them, you might as well try to get them now. Because, yeah, I don't know how much longer they'll be around. But this is Conan, King Conan. I've been reading a lot of King Conan lately. The original Marvel years, the Jason Aaron's last issue, and then this right here. So I feel like I've gotten to know the character a lot lately. Last but not least, X-Men Epic Collection, Dissolution and Rebirth. So here we have volume 17 of X-Men. Collecting issues 248 to 267. One of my favorite eras, probably actually my favorite era of X-Men, the Outback years, or the end of the Outback years. Chris Claremont, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rick Leonardi, Kieran Dwyer, Bill Jaska, Mike Collins, and Will Spertasio. Holy crap, the amount of talent that is in here. Of course, I didn't even talk about the inkers like Scott Williams, Dan Green, Kent Williams. Oh my gosh. We kick it off with Jim Lee's first X-Men issue. It's not his first Marvel issue, right? But it is his first X-Men issue. And it is the appearance of Donald Pierce, Lady Deathstrike, and the Reavers like Malcolm, Cole, or Macon, Cole and Reese. These are characters that he hacked and slashed in issue 133 of Uncanny X-Men. They are back now as cyborgs. Oh, damn, I love this era. Okay, so this is a reprint. This is the latest printing of Dissolution and Rebirth. Dissolution and Rebirth was an Epic Collection that, bam, I mean, it came and went just like that. Do I still have a copy of that to do a comparison? No, I do not, because like most of the copies that I get, I end up giving away. So that I think I gave that away as soon as it came out. But this is the latest printing of it, and I think I did do an overview of that. I think I did a solo overview of that. So I guess I'm just going to be repeating myself, because I never go back and watch my old videos. But this right here, we're going in the aftermath of the Inferno saga. So the X-Men are losing team members left and right. Like we have Longshot exiting to go and find himself. We have Wolverine missing. So this is when the X-Men use this thing called the Siege Perilous. This is Zaladane showing up to attack the X-Men. Oh, my favorite cover. I love this cover right here. So awesome. 251. One of the best covers. Probably my favorite cover by Mark Silvestri ever. But this is a very important issue because this is when he's crucified up there by the Reavers and the X-Men make a huge decision that forever changes their lives. Now we have Jubilee meeting Wolverine for the first time. She had met the X-Women in issue 244 when she first appeared, but now she's actually meeting Wolverine and helping him out. But where are the other X-Men? What's going on with Storm? What's going on with Dazzler? Well, they're missing. So then we have the Muir Island issues right here. And this one playing a huge important role, issue 255. If you're a fan of the House and Powers of X, that one really sets up like, holy crap, that retcon actually works that Jonathan Hickman did. We have the appearance of Psylocke as Lady Mandarin during the Acts of Vengeance. Jim Lee coming in doing the artwork for this. Oh my gosh, this is when I'm like, okay, that Jim Lee guy, that guy's awesome. Because he didn't really stand out to me in issue 248. I was a Mark Silvestri guy. And then I was really saddened when I found out Mark is going to be taking over Wolverine. I'm like, oh, come on, man, really? I don't want to see this Jim Lee guy take over. So there were 3 issues of Jim Lee just to set up what's coming. Oh, man. So the Siege Perilous, of course, changes the X-Men, and you can read exactly how here. And I love this because this is also the era where both Forge and Banshee team up to go and search for the X-Men. They team up with Jean Grey. They're looking for the X-Men because they think the X-Men are alive, and they have to find them. They're out there somewhere. And then, of course, we have the first appearance of everybody's favorite Hey, I forgot that. Of course, they play an important part in all this. But Nanny and Orphan Maker, always love the designs of Orphan Maker. But we have the first appearance of everybody's favorite Cajun, and that is, of course, Gambit. Making his first appearance with an Andy Kubert cover, Jim Lee little letterbox up here, and then Mike Collins doing the artwork. This is crazy. I remember having the issue. I had to find it later because apparently, at the time, my folder did not keep that issue of X-Men for me. That or 267. I had to find them from somebody else. I'll never forget how pissed I was about that. But here is 267. This one drawn by Whilce Portacio. Of course, he was part of the Homage Studios. So he was friends with Jim Lee. And it was just so cool to see him work together and come in. And, of course, we have the return of Storm and Gambit. Let's look at the extras here in the back. Because I'm sure if you go back to watch that old video, find more information about it. I hope I don't spoil anything because I can't remember how far that was. I don't think I was spoiling things at the time. As I try not to anymore. Here are all character designs by Jim Lee. Mark Silvestri, little house ads, a Jim Lee press poster. Of course, this being used for the cover. Like this been recolored to be used for like the direct market cover. The Mutations trade paperback that feature the changing of Beast, Archangel, or Angel to Archangel, and of course Psylocke too. Lady Mandarin. The second printing, the gold printing. This is the Chris Claremont Jim Lee Omnibus cover right here with the new colors. The trade paperback to the Essential X-Men. And then a bunch of other trade paperbacks back here. Classic Gambit. And then, of course, this cover right here. I always point out the fact that that's not Strong Guy. But this book right here has 488 pages. It has, or retails for $44.99. If you miss it the first time, as I always like to tell people, that reprints usually come in a smaller print run. So, just in case you missed it the first time, don't miss it this time. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of all of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up. If you're hoping that Marvel wraps up the rest of the Empire era, I think they have enough for one more, I want to say, just from hearing a bunch of you all out. I don't know what the status is of King Conan, but regardless, there are stories in here that were not collected again in that Colossal edition from Dark Horse. Yes, and if you're picking up X-Men in this format, or if you're picking it up in oversized hardcover format with Omnis and OHCs, Mighty Marvel Masterworks, you're still getting them. But anyway, leave your comments, questions down below, smash that like button, check out our Patreon and Spread Shop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, all of you, stay healthy and safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow.